Hi everyone, welcome to the Ravit Show. I'm super excited to have Simon with me today. Simon, you are leading cloud and AI infrastructure for Cisco across APAC, Asia Pacific, Japan, Greater China. Right at the point where big AI ambitions, meet the hard reality of network security and technical debt. So I am, obviously wanting to talk about many things today. Also, what you are seeing with customers in the region, why the gap between AI ambition and readiness is widening. What is it really, that takes for you to build an infrastructure that can support agentic AI at scale? Along with security, because I talk to a lot of enterprise leaders, and that is something that they always feel is like the first step: security, trust in how they can build on it. So let's get into it, but it's your debut. So excited to have you. And Simon, would you like to also tell a little bit about yourself and what you do at Cisco?
Thanks, Ravit. Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for having me on your show. My name is Simon Miceli. I run the Cloud and AI Infrastructure Group at Cisco for APJC, and our mission is to help our customers build the critical infrastructure for the AI era.
All right, Simon. So I want to obviously run into the big picture of APJC as well. I want to learn from you when you look across APJC, how ready are enterprises really for AI in business terms, not just pilots to experiments? Because we've been past that phase, I feel. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because we hear anecdotally all the time that there is quite some way to go for enterprises to be truly AI ready beyond the plethora of pilots that are running out there. These pilots have varying degrees of success and various degrees of return on investment. But we need to bring data, not just anecdotes, to the discussion. So we recently published findings of a global study. It's a study we've been running for 3 years now, and it's called the Cisco AI Readiness Index.
Oh, nice.
The way the index runs, it's a double-blind process. We survey about 8,000 IT and business leaders that are responsible for AI strategy, each of them having at least 500 employees and spanning 30 markets and spanning 26 industries. So it's a completely anonymous, but also a fair reflection of the industry and where we stand today.
And what are you seeing in terms of the results as well? Now I'm kind of curious to get into what you've heard from these enterprise leaders. So kind of wanting to know a little bit about that as well, Simon.
Yeah, so the results were interesting. This year's findings show that only 13% of organizations are AI ready in terms of business usage of AI, the ability to unlock real-world use cases that drive an ROI for the business. And that 13%, we call them Pacesetters. Now, what's interesting is we've run it for 3 years, and this level of readiness has actually been consistent, roughly the same over the last 3 years. But the point to note is it's not that enterprises are not making progress over the last 3 years, but the concept of readiness is a moving target as the technology advances. So as we move from chatbots to agentic AI to physical AI, the demands on enterprises to be AI ready is also changing somewhat. And not all enterprises are able to keep up with the rate of innovation. And yes, this is somewhat of a red flag, but that's why we take our learnings from this survey to light the way forward for businesses.
Yeah, these are pretty interesting points. And like you said, we are now moving into what you call the agentic phase of AI. I'm wanting to also learn how is this phase changing what companies need from underlying infrastructure compared to the last few years. How are you kind of looking at that?
You're right. I mean, we are truly entering the next era of AI. Many of us remember the first time we loaded an image over the internet on our computer, and we downloaded it. It might have been a 14 4K modem. I'm dating myself there. And the image appeared line by line on the screen. And as it came into focus, you got this sense of awe or sense of what is possible with the internet. And the same was true with downloading music and chat rooms and online gaming, because it was just so different to what was available before. And I have to say, I felt the same way the first time I used Chat GPT to do something, and just like that picture 20 years ago, those pictures have become 4K, streamed video over the internet. Chatbots and agentic AI too will evolve more and more over time to what we dreamed possible.
Right.
Now, the question you asked, was the impact on infrastructure, and the demands on infrastructure are going to be very different. When an AI has agency, it's going to drive incredibly high and sustained demand, as opposed to the bursty nature of demand, with chatbot conversations. So utilization will go absolutely through the roof. And go back to that analogy. It's analogous to serving a web page, to a browser, versus having a smartphone full of apps in the mobile era, in the social era, that's dynamic, that's constantly doing something, always updating while it's sitting in your pocket. But I will finish by saying there is a big difference, because rather than this being a consumer-driven movement, this is business, driving autonomous operations, driving business process automation, where that automation isn't hardwired in scripts, if this, do that. But now it's reacting to this non-deterministic decision engine, what we call an AI model that comes into the loop. And it's going to drive productivity improvements that are going to really transform the way we work and the way we live. So, it's exciting times.
Yeah, these are fantastic insights. Thanks for sharing this, Simon. I'm kind of also wanting to touch on these lines. You want that, carrying technical or infrastructure debt into the AI era puts organizations at a disadvantage, right? What are the early warnings or signs that a business is already in the danger zone? What are your thoughts around that? Curious to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, because we just said how the demands on infrastructure are going to increase dramatically.
Right.
So it's important to define the term that was coined here, AI infrastructure debt. So this is the modern evolution of concepts we already know, technical, digital debt, that have held back transformation in previous eras. So think of it as the silent accumulation of compromises or deferred upgrades, underinvestment or underfunded architectures that get costlier the longer it's ignored. And it slows innovation, it inflates costs, and ultimately it erodes returns on the projects that we're running. So what we're trying to do with the AI Readiness Index is to make some of the early warning signs visible. The need to upgrade, rising costs, access to GPU capacity, budget constraints, emerging threats. So this is why we look at our Pacesetters as the shining light. They are the leaders of the pack, and what sets them apart is strong governance, the financial foresight to invest in the right places, and having an element of cross-functional coordination across their organisation, so that they have the resilience to address AI infrastructure debt before it compounds into costlier risks.
That is a very good point there, Simon. I have a follow-up question as well around network as a foundation. What are your thoughts when we obviously treat it as a foundation and not an afterthought? For a business leader, what does network as a foundation for AI as well actually look like in practice? Do you have any thoughts around that? Or because you talk to so many customers and enterprise leaders, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the network is the central nervous system of enterprises. So, when thinking about AI specifically, most respondents, they tend to focus on computing, especially accelerated computing with GPUs. What we've found with the top 13%, the Pacesetters, is that they actually prioritize network infrastructure, and 81% of the global Pacesetters rate their network as optimal or optimized for AI workloads. And that's versus 22% of the APJC respondents. So it's important to understand this. If we talk about what does optimal mean, Well, first of all, it's a modernized Ethernet network that's built in sync with the rest of the organization, not avoiding new silos of technology. We've been trying to remove silos from our infrastructure and from our data centers. It's highly scalable, it's lossless, it's high bandwidth, it's low latency networking. It has advanced congestion management technologies to ensure that those GPUs are not left waiting for information or data and therefore being underutilized. And that's how you drive ROI. The network being the foundation is also having security built into the network fabric from day one. And this means integrating a distributed firewall, intrusion detection systems, the encryption of data in transit, ultimately implementing a zero trust architecture. So what we found is 62% of companies are expecting their workloads to increase significantly by 30% within 2 to 3 years. Some say 1 to 5 times over the next 5 years. Personally, I think they're conservative numbers. And network infrastructure is not designed to handle this increased workload, whatever that number may be. We know it's going to be a lot. The network will become the bottleneck well before the compute becomes the bottleneck. And it is not so easy to rewire a data center under production load.
I think now I understand why network should be actually as a foundation and should not be an afterthought in all the cases, because it will actually help you and obviously get the work done very quickly. I'm also wanting to hear your thoughts when it comes to obviously pilots to real AI value, because that is something a lot of conversations that we have kind of also comes up. So in your conversation, what separates the companies that stay stuck in AI pilots from the ones that actually get value into production, especially with AI agents? Because it's been the talk of the town for the last 2 years, and I think it will go a long way. So what are your thoughts, Simon?
That's a great question. So, there's the top 3 that I would say are solving for power constraints, continuous optimization, and building security in from day one. And I think it's worth spending some time to break that down. So we have to solve for power constraints before hitting them. And we know power constraints are coming as it relates to AI infrastructure. So half of the APJC organizations that were surveyed expect the AI workloads to increase by more than 50% within 3 to 5 years. We mentioned that earlier. 44% are building new data center capacity over the next 12 months. But here's the thing. It actually takes 18 to 36 months to provision new power infrastructure. So there's going to be a deficit. 96% of the global Pacesetters have already built dedicated infrastructure to optimize power consumption and lock down access to power, compared to only 45% in APJC. So we know more than half of APJC companies are building AI capacity without the power infrastructure to run it. So Pacesetters build for the constraint because it's far more difficult, to retrofit that later. So that's the power piece. So when we talk about driving value beyond deployment and through continuous optimization, this is a really interesting. So getting an AI model into production is absolutely worth celebrating, but model performance does degrade over time. And what the Pacesetters do, what makes them stand out, is the continuous optimization after deployment. So 72% of these Pacesetters, have continuous monitoring and automated retraining versus only 25% in APJC. So what this enables is speed. 38% of Pacesetters update models in under an hour with minimal downtime versus only 11% of organizations in APJC. And this is an advantage which compounds, because it means an organization can optimize their models 3 to 4x faster. Think 50 cycles of optimization in a year versus only 12 or 15. So, what
Yep.
this means ultimately is, Pacesetters treat deployment as day one, but they don't
Nice.
treat it as the finish line.
Hmm. I like it. What do you kind of, obviously what I'm kind of hearing is sometimes it's also where you need that push in Pacesetters, can be that push as well. Sorry, continue, Simon. I want to hear more about, what are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, and I'll finish with the third point.
Yep.
I know you've spoken to Jeetu Patel recently, and he speaks about this, with great passion. It's building in security as an accelerant to innovation instead of actually slowing it down. And it really is, the first time in history that security becomes the enabler for innovation, as opposed to hindering the innovation because of all the guardrails that are put in place. So
Right.
Pacesetters build security into the infrastructure from day one. So 84%
Love
of
it.
Pacesetters have end-to-end encryption with continuous monitoring already in place. Only 31% in APJC have that. So
Oh.
this approach to security becomes even more critical with AI agents, obviously. I mean, 84% of APJC organizations are deploying autonomous AI agents today, and they openly admit only 31% of them can properly secure them. For Pacesetters, it's different. 96% of them are deploying agents, 75% are securing them. So there's still a gap,
Yeah.
but it's a manageable gap
Yes.
because security is more likely to be architected in and not bolted on. So these Pacesetters are building security into their infrastructure. They're propelling innovation, and they're not introducing gates which slow them down.
Love it. I love every piece of the pace setter that you've kind of explained, because what I feel is most of the times these are some of the factors where you're not very confident about the projects that you're kind of doing in AI. And then also AI agents is not, it's not just one agent, but you'll have multiple agents, even agents doing agents talking to agents, and other work is getting done. So I think these are great points. I'm kind of also wanting to learn from you a little bit, and also want to get a little bit of advice from you, right? For the leaders who are planning next 2 to 3 years, for any CIO and the business leaders who are actually serious about agentic AI, what are the three top things that they should fix, or also invest in now, they are not left behind over the next few years, in maybe next 2 to 3 years? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to just get moving. Don't wait, because it's an
Don't wait.
iterative process, and you will learn as you go. But it also comes down to the three key areas I spoke about earlier: putting the network first, having the right foundations in place, prioritizing the power infrastructure of the organization,
Right.
having a process in place to continuously optimize the AI models, the AI infrastructure, and treat AI as a journey, not this destination that is complete once you put a use case into production. But the piece that really stands out and makes the biggest difference, is this concept of a trust deficit. If you don't trust the AI system, you won't use the AI system. So embedding security from day one, integrated into the system, and not a bolt-on later on, is absolutely critical to the journey.
I love it, Simon. To be honest, this has been a very honest view of what it really takes to be ready for AI, and all with the data readiness that needs to be in place as well, along with network security, and having those guardrails in place is so important, right? I can't wait to obviously do a 2.0 session with you very soon. But this was you obviously, we all know Cisco has been non-stop. I was telling it to Jeetu as well, that you all operate so quickly, you'll innovate so quickly, and doesn't feel like it's such an old company, but you all operate as a startup and you all are on the go. So that gives us more confidence as well to keep up. But also for the customers, I feel it is such a great value that they get by innovating, but with all the security, data, infrastructure in place. So this is good. One last question that I have for you is, Simon, if people want to reach out to you or just follow you, because I know you do a lot of talking on the LinkedIn as well. You do constant, you keep your community updated. So is LinkedIn the best place to follow you and just stay updated with everything that's happening in the APJC market? Is that the best place, or X, or some other place? What do you say?
Yeah, LinkedIn is absolutely the best place. Would love to hear from anyone who would like to discuss this topic further. Really appreciate spending the time with you in this session.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Simon. And obviously, we spoke about the gap between ambition and readiness, which kind of, obviously is ready. Data readiness is very close to me because I talk to a lot of enterprise leaders. The shift into obviously agentic phase, and why the network and security needs to be treated as foundation. So that is a no-brainer, and how closing that infrastructure debt is now a business priority, not just the IT projects that we always look out for. But thanks again for doing this, Simon. We'll keep the conversation going, and we'll make sure for those who are wanting to learn about more things, feel free to follow Simon, and obviously look at the website, and you can always learn more. But thanks for joining us today, and thanks for obviously giving us all the great insights, Simon.
Thanks, Ravit.
Thank you everyone for joining us today.